Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm super excited to have my guest, Renee, here. Renee, thank you so much for being here. I know we're on the same time zone here, so I realized that when we texted each other, and I was like, wait a minute, I know that area code. So thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to getting to know you here.
Thank you so much. Such an honor to be here.
Yeah, great. Okay, so since I just indulged that you were on the same time zone, can you tell everyone where in the world you're coming from?
Yes, so I am here in beautiful San Diego, enduring a terrible, grueling winter.
Yeah, right. I can laugh at that because I grew up down there. So yeah, that's why that area code is very familiar. Yes. San Diego. Have you always been in San Diego?
I'm a California girl, but I came down here for college. So it's been like 10, 15 years now.
Yeah. Where was the originating location?
The Bay Area.
Oh, okay. Up north. What brought you down? You went to school down there? Which college did you go to?
Point Loma Nazarene University.
Yeah. It's a great school. I love that school. It's beautiful there.
Yeah. I had read at one point it's the closest university to the ocean on the whole West Coast. So
oh, wow. That's interesting. It's probably a toss between that and Pepperdine.
I was going to say my brother went to Pepperdine, so
yeah, you both had the beach college experience. Yeah, gosh, you can't go wrong with that. No, it's beautiful there. Okay, so did you go to Point Loma for nursing or?
Yeah, I was looking at nursing programs throughout the nation, and that was one of the ones that really stood out to me.
So you were up in the Bay Area. And you went down to Point Loma, and you said you wanted to go to nursing right away. Yeah. Was there something that interested you in nursing, and that's why you went into nursing, or was it like a childhood dream or something like that?
Yeah, so I've kind of always wanted to be a nurse. My mom is a nurse, and she was actually a pediatric ICU nurse too. But when I was in 7th grade, I was homeschooled for 1 year, and she actually was born and raised in Taiwan as a missionary kid. And so part of our curriculum that year was going to the Chinese market and buying different organs and dissecting them at home. And it was just so fascinating. I just loved every minute of it. And so that was the year when I was 12 years old. I was like, I'm definitely going to be a nurse.
Wow. So, okay. That is the first time. You were the first one on this podcast to have that story for sure. So wait, let's go back on this a little bit. So you were in 7th grade, and what class was it? It was like a science class. Is that what you were?
Yeah, doing? It was it was our like human anatomy portion of our science. And she'd go by, a pig heart, and we would cut it open and say, like, here's the valves, and this is the path that the blood would go through, and here's where the aorta would be, and different organs. And it was it was really cool.
Wow, that's really cool. That is really, really cool. Okay, so then you knew you wanted to be a nurse. And yeah, it probably helped that your mom was a nurse. That seems to be a theme when, someone in the family is also a nurse. They know the experience. So did you apply to a bunch of different nursing programs, or did you know that you wanted to go to Point Loma? That was your thing?
Yeah, I applied for a handful. Point Loma was my dream school. So it was a little bit hard to get my heart into applying for the other universities. But yeah, when I got accepted to Point Loma, I knew that was where I wanted to go. So
great. Okay. And was it what you expected? I'm guessing because you've already, you've already looked at organs. You've already gotten a little bit of a heads up of what the, medicine is like. Was nursing school what you expected? Was it better? Was it worse?
I honestly loved nursing school. I'm one of those people who just loves school too and
Mm-hmm.
learning, which is part of why I
Mm-hmm.
got my master's. But I loved school and I loved the community there too. It was just really incredible. Those were 4 of the best years of my life.
Oh,
And as far as
wow.
like the nursing component of it,
Yeah.
there was nothing that was like, oh, this is grosser or harder
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
whatever than I
Yeah.
expected. It was all just like, I really get to do this? Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. You loved it. So now, did you already know what specialty you wanted to go into because of your mom, or did that just solidify when you were at school? Tell me a little bit more about your specialty and why you chose it.
Yeah. So I've always loved kids. So I knew pediatrics was where I was really leaning. And so I was, thinking through pediatrics, and I actually didn't even know my mom had been a PICU nurse because she left the bedside when I was born.
Oh, okay.
So that had been her new grad position way back when, but she'd been doing other odds and ends jobs. She kept up her license always. Um, so I was thinking pediatrics. And then before I hit my pediatric semester, I hit my critical care semester. And I remember
Mhm.
being so conflicted that semester because I was just, critical care is so cool. This is really fascinating. Like, am I going to be a critical care nurse instead? And then the next semester I went to pediatrics and I saw PICU there and I was like, oh, we can combine the two. And so my very first day of pediatrics, I was in the pediatric ICU. Still remember my patient's name, the diagnosis.
Wow.
It was a neurological a head injury,
Yeah.
which is part of why I still love TBIs. And
Hmm.
I just walked around in awe that whole day.
Yeah.
And from that day, I was,
You
this is the
knew.
unit I want
Yeah.
to be on.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you finished nursing school, and then did you apply to pick you right away, or yeah, you
Yep.
did, and you got in right
Yeah.
away?
Yep.
Was that your
Oh,
luck?
got
Yeah.
my job. I graduated Saturday, got my job Monday.
Wow.
Had
That's
to wait the whole
great.
summer though to pass my boards because we didn't.
Sure. Sure.
The cohort started at the end of the summer.
Right. And did you apply to the same hospital that you were that you did your clinical? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
we're one
knew
of the
you were familiar.
biggest ones in the whole region. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you knew. Wow, that's that. Yeah, that used to be the case a long time ago, and then it seems like in recent trends, it's a lot harder to get into the specialty that you want to without
yeah,
fighting for a position. So that's great that
yeah.
you got in right away. Okay, so you started working right away, and you probably loved every bit of it, right?
It was hard. I will say that. I
Yeah,
nursing school, I felt like this isn't that hard. People say it's so
right.
hard. It wasn't that bad.
Hmm.
And then when I started as a new grad in the pediatric ICU, that was the first time that I was like, okay, this is hard.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what was the most challenging? Was it just the diagnosis? Was it like dealing with people? I'm imagining that that's not the case because you were familiar with the people there. What was hard about that for you?
So in nursing school, we get kind of a little taste of everything. And then when you start, you dive into your specialty. And I was working in a specialty kind of within a specialty with pediatrics and intensive care. And my unit operates with a pretty decent amount of autonomy. And so I
Mm,
learned pretty quickly on that, I remember one time going to the doctor and saying, hey, should we add this medication? They said, I don't know. What do you think? I was like, well, you're the doctor.
right,
And so, and
right,
it became very apparent pretty quick that I was expected to know a lot. And they gave me a really great orientation. I had plenty of support. They did a really good job on that front, but just
mm,
recognizing that, I can make a little error and that could hurt children who are already
right.
in some of the worst moments of their lives. And it was
Yep,
just a lot of weight to carry. I recognized the gravity of that.
right.
And yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a moment where you go, why did I get to do this? It's a little stressful, but I'm sure you rose to the occasion, uh, and started making those decisions. How long have you been working in pick you in that specialty?
So I just hit 10 years at my hospital. Just over 9 of that has been as a nurse.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And you're still working clinically?
Yep. Still in that
Yeah.
same unit I started at.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a pro. Did you get, so you said you got your master's. What did you get your master's in?
Nursing education.
Okay. What was the reason you went in to get your master's?
So I've always loved teaching and education too. And I was actually doing a lot of different teaching things at the hospital already.
Mm.
A side part of wanting to get my master's was just that I have followed in my mom's footsteps for so many things. She got her master's when she was like in her 40s. So I was like, well, if I'm going to get it eventually anyways, as fate would have, might as well get it when I'm younger. But I got the school itch and went back and have gotten to use it in some really cool ways at the hospital to give back, which has been really neat.
In the education space. Yeah. So did you take on any sort of educator role or just within your role?
Yeah. So all of the above kind of. I operate somewhat as a per diem educator in the education department for the hospital. So it kind of started back right after COVID, that first cohort of new grads. I was, saying, let me help with this cohort. I love new grads. That's my passion, especially because I was a new grad at this hospital and I recognize how hard it can be to be in that spot. So I really have a heart for new people. So me and a friend of mine said, let's help with this cohort. So we were helping, getting it ready. And then about a month before it started, the coordinator said, oh, by the way, I just took another job. So you guys are it. So for that first cohort back, I was co-leading that cohort. Then the next cohort, a few months later, my friend said, I did not sign up for this. So then it was just me alone, that next cohort. Then the cohort after that, they had hired somebody new, but she ended up getting really sick during that time. So then I led that third cohort again. So that's kind of how I got more into this educator role. I was already doing odds and ends things. I taught clinical for Quintlum actually a few semesters.
Okay. Yeah.
And then now I just teach various lectures and workshops and courses, get to write curriculum for it. And it's been really fun.
You clearly love the education side of it, which is great because I think it's such a needed a needed role. I mean, I've been a nurse for 25 years and the difference now, there's a huge difference now, I feel. And it's like, it may be because I'm older and, I've seen a lot, but I see a big difference in how new nurses are educated or, are ready for their real life, role. It's much different than it used to be. And so I think that education is a piece that I hate to say it, but I feel like it's been kind of lost in the shuffle, so I love that, new nurses are taking on education and find that it's important. And I wish that I would see that more often. So I imagine though, and I know that this topic comes up a lot on this podcast, is that we are kind of natural educators. I think all of us have had some sort of role in education, which has kind of led us into this, or maybe it's just kind of one of those, prerequisites for what we're doing now, because we naturally need to educate those who need our help. So you're a natural educator. You've taken on a big education role. How did you get into the legal nursing side of things?
Yeah. So in addition to continuing to grow my clinical practice, I was also curious about other things. And there was a woman I worked with sporadically who had mentioned that she worked for the Board of Registered Nursing reviewing like complaints against nurses' licenses.
Yep.
And so that kind of got me intrigued in the field, started looking into it, went to a networking event to learn more about legal nursing, took a little class, and then just started really networking and trying to see where my niche and where my values would be most utilized. I kind of started seeing pretty early on that the types of character traits that are useful in legal nurses and especially expert witnesses are things that I already do or have the potential to really excel in. And so it felt like something that I could learn something new, which is really fun for me, while also really utilizing the skills that I've already been working to develop. So that was kind of my launching point.
Mm-hmm. So did you have someone that was kind of your mentor, or did you connect with, because there's a wonderful community out there, clearly. What did that look like to you once you had taken the class and kind of put your foot into this world? Did you find some good resources or mentors for you?
Yeah, so I'm sure you hear this all the time, and I've heard bits of it, but there is such a great community out there for legal nurses. And so I found some of that on LinkedIn, but the place that I initially started, I'll give a little shout out to the JERCS, the Juris Educational Resource Knowledge. So I joined that and got a mentor through them. And she was really helpful in guiding me, steering me through those initial steps, giving me I learned this the hard way type things.
Yeah.
So that was very valuable for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of shortening your learning curve, right? As we all, it's like what I learned, what I wish I would have known ahead of time. So how long have you been in the legal nursing space?
Honestly, April is more when I jumped into it. And so, yeah, just this past 6-7 months, something like that.
Yeah. So you went in, jumped in with both feet and said, you're doing this, that you have all of those, checked all those boxes of a good legal nurse. And so how did you decide that you were going to get your name out there? I mean, was it your mentor that shared with you on ways to do that, or did you just kind of figure it out on your own? Because I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast, that's kind of one of their biggest questions. Like, all right, I know I have all the qualities like you. Like, I know I have all the qualities. I know I want to do this. I know I can educate people, but how the heck do I get my name out there? Did you run into that, or did someone lead you along the way when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, so I would be doing my dad a disservice if I didn't mention his influence on all this. He's a big marketing guy and very business savvy and a very, very effective communicator, which is one thing that even as little kids, I remember him saying, I want you to learn how to read well and write well. If you can express yourself in writing and you can express yourself verbally in communication, like those are some of the greatest things that I would hope for my children.
Right.
So I kind of looked to his example and just said, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there. And so I went on LinkedIn. I started making those connections. One of the things I love most about this podcast is that it is those one-on-one connections, because that's so much more valuable than just, being a face in a sea or, kind of knowing some people. Really getting to know people one-on-one is where it really lies, So that's what I tried to do. Put myself out there, started posting about what I am passionate about, what I know about, what I'm learning about. And
your contact is really great. That's actually how I, discovered you, is your LinkedIn content and word on the street. And, people love to lift others up. And so, names come up, and like you said, the one-on-one connections, which selfishly, this is why I started. And I don't know if I've talked about that. I might've talked about that on this podcast. Selfishly, one of the reasons why I started this podcast was for that reason, is that I wanted to build one-on-one connections with people I didn't know. And I didn't realize that how I knew, relationships and community were really important, because I actually taught that in a past life for entrepreneurs building their businesses using Facebook groups. And I don't think I've mentioned that on this podcast before. I usually tell people after we hit stop on the record. But yeah, I taught people how to build communities using Facebook groups for business owners.
Very cool.
So communities is really big for me, and building relationships is really big for me. So I knew that being in this new world of legal nurses, I knew that relationship building was important, but I didn't realize just how important it was in this world until I started doing this podcast. And then it was like this big light bulb hit. I was like, wait a minute. Relationships are even more important in this community than we recognize. So the fact that you had reached out to people and connected with people and put your neck out was probably one of the smartest things you could do building your business. We could post all day long, but really being memorable. I mean, you can create memorable content, but remembering that person, or maybe having a conversation with that person. And that's, again, another reason why this podcast has really taken off, which I wanted to say, yes, I totally expected that, but I didn't. But I think that the reason why it's taken off is because we not only do we like to hear other people's stories because we're curious, but there are pieces of our stories that are very memorable, right? And if we can remember that one person, if we can remember Renee because of something that she said on this podcast, then we're going to remember her in the future. So it's very easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle. But being memorable, having conversations with people outside of the podcast, I think is more valuable than we think. I mean, I'm saying that because I know a lot of people. I know I get questions a lot from others on how do I get started? And it's really that. It's like build those relationships and ask questions and be memorable and stay connected with people, because you could send a message to someone and it's great, and then life goes on and you could forget that person. But staying memorable, I think, goes a long way. So do you
does
agree?
That mean I'm now going to be remembered as Pig Heart Girl?
Yeah, Pig Heart Girl. Yes, doing anatomy experiments in 7th grade and going to school on the beach, right? Those are like the two things. I actually had a conversation with another legal nurse. Her episode hasn't come out yet, but we were talking about this. We were actually talking about this offline, about being memorable. And, her content is so great on social media, or on LinkedIn and social media. And it's very, legal nurse oriented. And I was like, I've chosen to make my content about me and my life, my business, my everything, kind of 5 pillars, 4 pillars, whatever you want to call it. And we had talked about it, and she had shared about her. And once I say this, her episode will air before this episode. So she had posted a picture of her husband and herself, and she has 7 kids. And I was like, and there you go. That you are memorable. I mean, it is.
I know
what
who you're talking about.
Exactly, right? You probably saw the post. And it is what it is. It's like, how do we become memorable? We're not only we need to be memorable to attorneys, right? But really, it's our own community, because there's so many of us. We're all nurses, right? Like, how do we stand out? And there are a lot of, pediatric and OB, and how do we stand out? It really has to do with our own story. And so, yes, the beach and, dissecting pig organs may be your pillars. And I would encourage you to share that story. So
maybe I will. Hopefully I can also become known for my amazing PICU nursing skills.
Of course. Because they'll bridge the gap. It would be like, I remember she was, pediatric ICU. That one nurse, pediatric ICU, who dissected organs and went to school on the beach. It's like easy to bridge the gap. Easier to bridge the gap that way. That would be you. Yeah. So, have you had a great experience with, okay, here's a question. Do you enjoy posting on LinkedIn? Do you enjoy the marketing side of this? Because some people don't.
Okay. It is a medium area for me.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not my natural inclination, but then again, a lot of this, business is not my natural inclination. And I really love learning and growing and challenges. And so that piece of it I enjoy. I really have enjoyed the connections. And I also really love educating and telling people about things that are fascinating to me.
Right.
And so I like that piece of it. I will say that the posts that I prefer are the ones that I'm just, working at the bedside or doing something, and all of a sudden it occurs to me that would be so fun to post versus it's been a week since I posted, I should put something out there type posts.
Yeah.
So I typically have things that I think of throughout the week that are inspiring to me and I think would be engaging to others. Those are the ones I prefer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it helps working bedside because there are stories every day, and it's just a matter of, remembering how to make this interesting to the world. And the fact that we are all okay. So you touched on something that you're not natural. Marketing is not natural for you because we were not taught to market as nurses. So we're all in the same boat. Marketing is not natural, and just the way that we do it, it has to be natural. And so why not share, your experiences bedside? And I love that. I love that. And everybody's different. It doesn't have to be a certain way. That's what I love. It's like, some people love to post, standards of care, and some people don't. And that's quite all right. Whatever gets you to show up, I suppose. So that answer is a very fair answer, and it's probably the answer that most people would give. Okay, so now that you're in this legal nurse world, you're doing expert work. What kind of advice would you give? Because you are an educator to, new grads, new to your department. How about those that are new to legal nursing? What kind of advice would you give them on, how to get started, or, something that you think that you wish you would have known before you got into it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And as somebody who's still on the newer side of that, I can only give partial advice.
Sure.
I really found it valuable to find my people, my safe people. So whether that's my mentor or a couple different people I reached out to and met up with for coffee and made some really good connections that way. That's putting myself out there. It's nothing that I'm used to doing and just saying, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? I've never met you. But we have a lot in common. I'm meeting up with somebody else and next week for that too. And so that's, and I mean, stuff like this is just great. One thing I will say that I've noticed that I kind of knew, and so I didn't end up making this mistake, but I think that sometimes when new people come onto the scene, there's a lot of hire me, hire me. And I decided that to show it rather than tell it would be better. So by putting myself out there and making other people say, wow, she seems valuable, versus me saying, hey, I'm really valuable, you want me, was kind of more of my goal. I also learned more about the expert witness role early on so that I could make sure I didn't sabotage myself from the get-go, because that role can be such a delicate balance compared to the behind-the-scenes work, which the expert work really is. As I'm getting more into it, that is part of the role that more excites me. The stuff that's like right in my niche, right down my alley. So I knew getting into this that was more where I was leaning. And so I took the Seek Expert Witness course to just know, these are the pitfalls. If you come out and say this thing right at the beginning or make this mistake, that could be your career in expert work. Not to scare new people, but, your reputation is so much when you're an expert.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
That was something else I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that advice because I don't think we talk much about that. I know that even on this podcast, it's, we're real careful about, we're just, the whole intention of this podcast is to get to know you and your story and to share your story. And it's not to put anybody on the spot because of that reason. It's like we all have our own businesses and we all put ourselves out there, but we're all very, we want to make sure that we are, our integrity is still intact, and we share what we need to share, and we don't share what we don't need to share. So it's very intentional, but it's very important, and I'm glad that you shared that information and actually that advice to educate yourself. If you are going to go down the expert witness role. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that have done it that are great mentors. I know for me, that's what I did. Just by chance, I lucked out with some really great mentors when it came to doing expert work. But yeah, educating ourselves, right? That's like spend the money, invest in yourself if that's something you want to do, so that you don't have to take 3 steps back because you jump the gun or whatever. So I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, now that we've talked about your content and people are probably very interested in seeing and hearing it, where can we find you on LinkedIn? And I'm assuming that's where you share most of your education and information and helpful insights into your world. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I do stay pretty active on LinkedIn at ReneeMall. I think I've got all my credentials listed after my name. With my newest certification I just obtained as well.
What is that? Say it.
Certified pediatric nurse. I've been a critical care registered nurse with CCRN with pediatric focus, but I decided to add CPN to that list.
Nice.
So
hard work. Good job.
That's me on LinkedIn. I also have a brand new website, ReneeMall.com, that has my other contact info and just a little bit about me and my services that I offer. And yeah, so that's where you can find my phone number, email address, all of that too.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been really great. I'm glad I got to know you a little bit more, and you are local-ish to me. And, I know that your inbox will be full of messages from listeners, wanting to get to know you more and maybe inviting you for coffee. So I hope that that's the case, and I'm sure it will be, because that seems to be the case for every episode, is that, something you've said may have triggered a nice thought from someone, and I hope they reach out and say hello. And do that. Make sure you guys reach out and say hello, and invite Renee for coffee.
I so appreciate that. I remember when I was just getting started on my LinkedIn journey, I saw this Anna Gray, and I was like, oh, what if someday I got invited to be on her podcast? That would be a lofty dream.
Oh, no.
So it's been really a joy to
my
be
goal
here.
is to have everyone on here. So there. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing, because you're making a name for yourself. It's very obvious, and it's people respect you, and that's the important thing. So keep doing what you're doing.
Well, same goes to you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. Or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at Anna Gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.